Freezer Bowl, the playoff game with the Chargers, are abound in Cincinnati today as the Jaguars play in the coldest game in franchise history. They do have a tarp here at Paul Brown Field, but they chose not to bring it out yesterday. There were 3 inches of rain, then overnight it froze, and then the snow began to fall. Earlier this morning, the grounds crew tried in vain to blow off this field, which has already been a major story this week, then ultimately just decided to paint the orange stripes so we'll have some idea what the boundaries will be. So what do the running backs do today? 2 outstanding ones, Corey Dillon and Fred Taylor of Jacksonville. Well, they're going to wear some taller cleats. They'll begin with 5/8 of an inch cleats, then 3/4 of an inch cleats, and then the last case scenario, 1-inch cleats. They don't want to do that because of the possible risk of injury. That's the story from Cincinnati to Charlotte and Charles Mann.
0 as the Bengals host the resurgent Jaguars on the frozen tundra there in Cincinnati. And there's Corey Dillon. He's a Pro Bowl starter. And he provided the Bengals this year with a rare bright spot, a pair of 200-yard rushing games, and also that record-breaking 278.
As the Jaguars come in, and not since the '82 Freezer Bowl game played between the Chargers and the Bengals in the AFC Championship has it been this cold. Tim Brando alongside Spencer Tillman. And Spencer, the Jaguars may be out of the playoffs this year, but they may be playing the best football of any team in the league.
Yeah, Timmy, credit Fred Taylor because he gives them the balance that they were lacking the first 6 games of the year. This guy right here, his presence alone allows that dangerous receiver tandem of McCardell and Smith to become lethal, causes matchup problems. Now, Cincinnati has Corey Dillon. He's pretty stout over there on the offensive side of the ball, running it for them. A back-to-back Pro Bowler, Timmy, on a one-dimensional team. That's all you need to know about his work.
The conditions today will be a factor as Cincinnati meets Jacksonville.
BS Sports, home of Super Bowl 35.
The faces tell the story of a season lost. A tale of what-ifs and what might have been. This year, there will be no playoff for the once dominant Jaguars. Now, it's all about pride. For the Bengals, after a decade of losing, pride is the only thing that's left. The coldest day ever in Jacksonville football history. Those faces will also be frosted. But a number of players like that idea.
This is Father's Day. This is going to be great Father's Day. Backs on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Backs on 3, hoping to run free for the Jaguars.
You heard about Benny the Bison?
No, what?
He never checked out the risk and overall performance.
Storyline here in Cincinnati and back in Jacksonville, even before the conditions. Tom Coughlin concerned about the midfield area, which had been sand-based. You see his career record, 60-42. He's had an outstanding career at Jacksonville, out of the playoffs. This is the second time in their 6 years, and Dick LeBeau, the interim coach, hoping that he can still coach another season here. You see Jim Tarl, who had teed up the football, and now the wind, which is gusting at 35 to 40 miles per hour this afternoon, blew it down, so they will have to hold it. And Jason Kraft, the reserve cornerback, will do the honors here as Tarl, the one-year man out of Arkansas State, who was picked up earlier in the year when Steve Lindsay was let go, kicks off. Ball does not travel as far, obviously, and it does come up to an up back. Damon Griffin, who was back there with Tremaine Mack, and Griffin brings it up, and you'll just have to work with us on the official yard lines today. He's beyond the 35-yard line, it appears. As you look at Scott Mitchell, who had such an outstanding season in '95 for Detroit after coming in Miami in '94, took over a few weeks back for Achilles Smith. He feels that this is a second opportunity at success as a starting quarterback. He won the only home start of the season that he had when he took over for Achilles, who had the worst statistics in the NFL at the quarterback position. And here you see yet another cutback by Corey Dillon. Now, this is what he does so well so often, and Kevin Hardy finally runs him out of bounds. We'll call it a gain of 20 into Jacksonville territory. As you look at the rest of that Cincinnati Bengals offense, working with Scott Mitchell today. And up front, an underrated offensive line. John Jackson gets the start for Rod Jones. Clearly, Willie Anderson has all-pro credentials, only giving up a sack and a half the last 2 years. Dillon, of course, is the magnificent back, two-time Pro Bowler. Battaglia gets the start because of the injury to Tony McGee, an ankle fracture last week. 1st and 10, Cincinnati. Brandon Bennett, after the 25-yard gain a moment ago, forges ahead for another yard or so. Gary Walker makes the stop for the Jaguars. Their defense depleted at times. Brackens was a holdout. He's back, and the sacks are up for Jacksonville. The linebackers, of course, they've lost the likes of Lonnie Martz and Hardy Nickerson, but T.J. Slaughter and Hardy have really played well the second half of the season. The corners are Bryant and Stewart. Donovan Darius, a hitter. Aaron Beasley is also a good cover guy. Many times they'll go with a nickel look. On 2nd down and 9. Pass is thrown a bit behind the receiver, Peter Warwick, and it falls incomplete. And it'll be 3rd down and 9 coming up. Brant Boyer was over there to provide the coverage. And again, the condition of the field, you can see how in the mid portion of the field, which has so much sand in it, it's Bermuda grass. They never got the bluegrass that is common in this particular part of the country down earlier in the year. And I think the fact that there's no tarp on the field overnight is going to be a major concern where the Jaguars management is concerned.
It was a major mistake. I spoke to the grounds crew, and they didn't give me a clear answer as to why they weren't able to put the tarp over it. This is certainly going to impact the outcome of this game, Tim.
3rd and 9. Plenty of time for Mitchell. And finally, he's sacked. That's a coverage sack for the Jaguars secondary. Joel Smengi got through there to finally bring him down, but he had plenty of time, a loss of 6 on the play, and the Bengals will be forced into a punt formation. Daniel Pope will come in to do the honors, who got off to a shaky start, has been booting the ball very well of late. Reggie Barlow drops back deep. There you see his average up over 40 yards now. A few weeks back, it was hovering around 35. Nice punt, particularly given the circumstances. Fair catch called. Bengals almost stop it. In fact, may still stop it at the 1-yard line. Let's see. They're going to say it did get into the end zone. It's a touchback. And will come out to the 20. Well, thank heavens the grounds crew did get that orange line down, right? 44-yard punt. We'll be back. And his offensive line intact, 3,208 yards. This is the 3rd time that he's been able to get over the 3,000-yard mark. One of the tops in the AFC. 1st and 10 from the Jacksonville 20. Taylor. And Fred is up to about the 25-yard line. Chris Carter comes up to make the stop. He may have eclipsed that. We'll call it a gain of 6, 2nd and 4. Rest of that Jaguar offense. The offensive front, Baselli, who was injured against Cincinnati last game of the year last season, has made it to yet another Pro Bowl, his 5th. 2 of these offensive linemen were not there at training camp at the beginning of the year. Kyle Brady is having an outstanding season. Of course, the two real threats are McCardell and Smith on the outside. 2nd down 4. Well, this is an incentive clause-laden contract that Fred Taylor has. If he can get over 164 yards, he'll be in great shape for breaking another record for him incentive-wise. You look at that Cincinnati defense. Copeland is a vocal leader for this club, but clearly the strength of this team is the linebacking core. Spearman, the youngster, Takeo Spikes felt that he was really overlooked where the Pro Bowl was concerned. Mark Roman gets his first start today out of LSU. Darrell Williams, the leader in that defensive backfield for Cincinnati. 1st and 10. Play fake. Brunell's pass is caught. Keenan McCardell in Cincinnati territory, it appears.
And, Tim, that's a great example of the balance. We have Fred Taylor on the first play, carrying it for nice yardage, plus yardage, and then we come back with a little passing route. What that does is create the balance. This is something they didn't have the first 6 games of the season, and subsequently their record reflected it. But when they get both phases of their game working, boy, this team becomes awful dangerous. Nice job over there painting the sidelines. I don't know how he found it, but the bottom line is, Brunell got the ball to him, and he made good on the catch.
20-yard pickup, the ball at the Cincinnati 49. Again, it's Taylor. Met by Steve Foley, who was in the backfield about the time Brunell was handing the ball off. A loss of 3 as Foley says that this team has been much more vocal. Look at how they're tearing this turf up.
Yeah, we aren't even 5 minutes into this, and watch this. You saw it happening in the warm-ups, feet all over the place, players trying to get footing and grounding. I think, you know what, as this game goes along, Cincinnati may have the advantage because Corey Dillon is one to cut back quite often. As he does that, it's much tougher for these bigger guys to change direction as opposed to some of the skill position players, Tim.
2nd down and 13 after the loss of 3. Brunell on the curl, pass incomplete. Jimmy Smith was popped pretty good as soon as the ball got to him by Mark Roman. This is the rookie that Dick LeBeau really wants to see. Robert Bean is on the inactive list. He was struggling with a knee sprain. So Roman gets the call this afternoon.
Yeah, they've got a pair of rookies out there on the corners. I mean, they're not going anyplace. This is a great opportunity to get Roman out there to see exactly what this guy is made of. I wish the conditions were a little bit better, then LeBeau would be able to evaluate him a little bit more effectively.
And you see the numbers on the year and 3rd down conversions have certainly picked up in the 2nd half of the season during this 5-game win streak.
Corner cat blitz.
Brunell reads it and finds his man. It's complete to Jimmy Smith, shy of a 1st down by a couple of yards. Nice tackle made there by Carter. And it's punt time.
In that situation, Brunell gets pressure, but he knows when you're coming with a corner cat blitz or slot blitz, he's got to account for the one uncovered guy out there that's coming, creating a threat to him. He did a fine job of it.
Brian Barker will punt it away. 11 years out of Santa Clara. Peter Warwick is back deep, standing at his 10-yard line. Low line driver. Warwick will let it go. And boy, I tell you, when the ball hits today, it could be like a 9-iron, even with a low line driver with the surface we have. 42-yard boot. We're scoreless early on in Cincinnati.
This is Tito. He's here to see the Johnson's vacation photos. Oh! Mr. Johnson has the iOmega Photo Show. It lets him enjoy digital photos on TV. He doesn't even need a computer. Neat! The Johnsons save their photos on a zip disk. Mrs. Johnson says it's the photo album of the future. Would Tito like a copy? No, thank you. Photo show? Zip. Zip it.
Bud Light. For the great taste that won't fill you up and never lets you down, make it a Bud Light. IBM, taking e-business and your business to the next level. And by Chrysler, we're reinventing the passion for driving.
Second coldest day in the history of Cincinnati football. The coldest game ever for Jacksonville in their 6 years in the league. Cincinnati's 2nd possession at their 20. Dillon trying to pop outside. And he may have lost a yard on the play. And we look back at 8 a.m. this morning when the grounds crew began to try to dust this off. And of course, it looked pretty good there, promising, but the snow continued to come down, and then they decided just to paint appropriately the orange sidelines and end lines for the boundaries. Spencer, as a player of 9 years in the National Football League, what's it like? That looks like an Etch-a-Sketch there, doesn't it?
That's manufactured here in Ohio, by the way.
That's right.
You don't know if you knew that or not. But, hey, you know, it's tough out there, Timmy. These guys have both got to play in the same condition. So in that regard, it's a balanced situation for both sides.
On 2nd and 10, pass is incomplete, intended for Battaglia. But I've got to believe at some point, I know you played in a dome in Houston and you played out in San Francisco. Any conditions similar to this in your career?
When we played Buffalo up in Erie County there in the playoffs, then the infamous come from behind victory. You can never forget that one.
Right.
It was cold there, but nothing really like this. I mean, there are a lot of players. As a matter of fact, Danny Farmer, one of them, one of the wide receivers started for Cincinnati, has never seen snow before. This is tough.
Yeah.
New element for these guys.
Yeah, he was like an angel flapping his arms in the air at practice earlier this week. Mitchell's pass is caught by Warwick. And Peter Warwick has a 1st down near midfield for Cincinnati. This is one of the things that Scott Mitchell has done since he took over for Achilles Smith. They're beginning to spread the ball around, and Warwick's numbers are up.
That's right. Mitchell and Anderson got together to say, hey, look, how can we get the ball in the hands of the guy that has the most talent on this field? A nice little shallow cross, and Warwick is the greatest in the league, in my opinion, even though he's just a rookie. After he gets the ball, he can make you miss. He is an impressive young talent when he's mature enough to make the right decisions. He struggled with that early this year.
Ken Anderson, the offensive coordinator and longtime Bengals quarterback, talked to Mitchell about that as Dillon forges ahead for about 3. We'll call it 2nd and 7. Donovan Darius, who specializes in coming up and run support at strong safety, made the stop. By the way, Jacksonville last week, when they buried Arizona, scored on their first 7 possessions in that game. That was the only time all season that they scored on a first possession. I think that Tom Coughlin came into this game hoping to jump on the Bengals early. The longer Cincinnati's in this game, the better their chances. They'll grow in confidence, and this time it's Dillon that's stopped behind the line of scrimmage by Kevin Hardy.
Kevin Hardy, Brackens, T.J. Slaughter, all those guys in there in on that tackle. And that's what you're going to see here. The fun thing about it, though, as I watch this, you're seeing a mature back, not trying to force the issue, Timmy, here. Does a great job of coming to the line of scrimmage. He could have tried to improvise and try to make something happen. But Corey Dillon just took what was there before him and just laid down. That was a good job.
That helps to be a mutter in situations like this. Dillon apparently is that. 3rd down conversions on 3rd and 10. They're batting .333 in that category, and we've got a whistle to stop play. It appears to be procedure. That's the preliminary indication.
Prior to the snap, false start, 89 offense, 5-yard penalty, remains 3rd down.
Jeff Triplett is our referee. The magnificent improvement in Corey Dillon over time. And I think now that Dick LeBeau is the head coach, they've decided, you know what, we're going to give more than just lip service. He's on pace in the running game for 1,500 yards. And many would tell you that the offensive line has a lot to do with that. It's a better offensive line than people realize.
Somebody wrote a song about it. Yesterday's wine just gets better with time, right?
That's right. This pass is caught, but behind, no, they're going to rule it incomplete. Smingy came up and really laid a hit on Brandon Bennett. And it falls incomplete. It'll be 4th down. Cincinnati will have to punt it away. When you look at this Jacksonville team, and we talked about it at the top, the what-ifs. Clearly, they had so many injuries defensively and in their offensive line. As they got healthy, their record improved. And they have a chance, if they run the table, to win 7 of their last 8 games. That could give them the best record in the league during the second half of the season.
Timmy, to give you an idea how much they were impacted, 61 roster moves. The Jaguars had to make all of them because of injuries.
Well, Pope did not get all of that one, but he did get a healthy roll. Jacksonville will have it at the 30 when we come back to the frozen tundra. Here in Cincinnati, we are scoreless. The Bengals and the Jaguars, 6:18 remaining. Jacksonville at their own 34-yard line, 1st down. It's Taylor. He tries to cut outside. Could not do so there. There's that cut problem as he loses a yard. Now remember, Fred Taylor has been like a bottle rocket. Look at that. Numbers against Tennessee, Washington, Dallas, Seattle, Pittsburgh. Tennessee again. And the numbers against Pittsburgh, 234 against that defense. In the last 8 games, 100-plus yards. He has a chance to tie Walter Payton today for 9 consecutive 100-plus yard games if he gets it done.
And you listened to him yesterday. He told us, if you recall, hey, I go into each game thinking I'm going to get 200. 100's a piece of cake.
Kyle Brady reels that one in. About a yard shy of the 1st down. Armijus Spearman, rookie out of Ole Miss. Free agent pickup brings him down. Adrian Ross is out injured. So that has pressed the Cincinnati linebacking core a bit.
A couple of the more impressive plays that we've seen so far in the short period of time this game has been underway have been shallow crosses. Those seem to be the high percentage passes that each team feels comfortable with. Quarterback, all he has to do is lay the ball out in front of him. Brady made a great job of hauling that one in.
3rd and 1.
Some other scores just underway. A number of important games with playoff implications that we'll get into as the afternoon progresses. Nothing doing. He was trying to get it to Jimmy Smith or Keenan McCardell. They were both in that general area as they were making adjustments to the Cincinnati pressure. And it's 4th down. Brian Barker will come back into punt.
Typically what happens is, Tim, when you got these kind of conditions, if you're running a lot of out patterns, a lot of fast break patterns or speed routes, what they call them, you're not going to have that same type of execution that you would under normal conditions. Both sides have got to deal with them, but because Jacksonville is a more balanced attack, more aggressive in the passing game, they're going to struggle with it more.
A high snap. Barker did make the adjustment. Warwick takes it in at his 25 and forges ahead to the 30-yard line for a return of 5 after a 32-yard punt. Grant Boyer made the stop. We'll be back.
Is sponsored by Priority Mail from the U.S. Postal Service and by Circuit City. Circuit City. Imagine that.
Those are the people that will be getting Christmas cards from Mike Brown. The hardcores here in Cincinnati.
Ready to go hunting?
First down and 10 for the Bengals at the 35-yard line. 3-step drop and the quick curl is caught. Danny Farmer getting his first start this afternoon, ahead for 15 yards.
Again, you know, nothing really fancy about this. A little 5-yard cut, quick look in route, the slant. This is what you need to do. High percentage stuff. Put the ball between the receivers and the back's body, or in this case, the receiver's body, and just put it on the mark. Mitchell did a fine job.
You see Corey Dillon getting ahead for maybe 2, and that's all. 2nd down and 8. Smangy comes up to make the stop. Well, coming up on the NASDAQ.com halftime report, Jim, Mike, and Jerry will be there for all the scores highlights, the latest playoff news, plus a report from the Indianapolis-Miami game that's coming up. All of that on the NASDAQ.com halftime report. 2nd and 7. Warwick in motion. Dillon again. Look out. First down, the ball is loose. And Jacksonville's recovered. At the 33-yard line, Raina Stewart is on top of it. The free safety, number 26, is on top of it as Dillon was struggling to get more yardage. From behind, it was knocked free. First turnover of the day after an outstanding run by Corey Dillon.
The all-new responsive Chrysler Sebring Performance Sedan. Proof that it's not the destination. It's the drive. Now, during the Chrysler Holiday Sale, lease the Sebring LX sedan for $259 a month.
That snowball is a great way to tell customers Staples has technology gifts.
Greetings, handhelds make terrific gifts. So do digital cameras.
Nice price. Excuse me, could you tell me about the scanner fax copier?
No.
But I want to get it for my brother.
Get him a cell phone.
No, he really wants one of these.
He can't have her. I love her.
What?
No. Weeping.
It's okay. You found just someone else.
Oh.
For technology gifts they really want, it's Staples.
A year ago, I'm bumming. I'm seeing hair here and hair there, so I started using Rogaine.
Rogaine is clinically proven to help stop hair loss.
Look, nothing here, nothing here. It's all here.
Rogaine, stronger than heredity.
Ding dong! Hey! Hello! Champagne's not Corbel! Uh-oh, gotta go!
Corbel, for people who know champagne.
Join Kevin Costner for a special presentation of The Bodyguard.
I'll be sharing some behind-the-scenes stories that have never been told until now.
The Bodyguard, CBS Wednesday.
You know what? Look at this right here. This is where the ball Brackens is going to come in and strip it right here. When you're running, the bottom line is you can't have attention to a forearm right in the face of one guy. Brackens comes on the other side and just rips it right out of there. That's unfortunate because it was a great design draw play, Tim. The type of play that works good against aggressive defenses.
Play fake. Brunell with plenty of time. And the pass is caught by Taylor. Ahead for 6, maybe 7 yards. Steve Foley makes the stop. We'll call it a 7-yard gain. Taylor also adept in coming out of the backfield as a receiver. You know, we talked to both Taylor as well as Brunell yesterday, and there's no doubt that Fred Taylor's emergence has led to this team's turnaround in the second half of the year. Look at that. 6.5 yards per carry has made life a bit more enjoyable in the pocket for Brunell.
He just changes the whole perspective and the way you game plan it. From a defensive standpoint, it's almost impossible because it forces one-on-one matchups against 2 quality receivers, arguably the best tandem in football right now.
Darrell Williams finally hauls him down after a 10-yard gain out to midfield. And it's very important not only for Jacksonville to get yardage out of Taylor, but for Taylor with incentive clauses in that contract that, by the way, do carry over to the salary cap issue that Jacksonville will face next season.
Well, Timmy, I know this for sure. They've already approached him about renegotiating his contract that is laden with incentives, but it's certainly undervalued at $385 as a base.
There he is going for about 5 more down to the 45-yard line of the Bengals. Takeo Spikes, 3 years out of Auburn, makes the stop.
Now, where he's making most of his money is when he makes those likely to be earned incentives. You're talking about $150K, $200K, and then $400K for certain plateau marks that he makes, and that's a cumulative. So you got a chance in that type of contract to make a ton of money, and he's just hand over fist. He's been raking it in.
Well, New Orleans involved in a very important game for them. Remember, a win against Atlanta would put them in great shape. Regardless of what the Rams do today, they play St. Louis next week. Pass is incomplete, intended for Kyle Brady.
You know, one of the things about it, we know his worth from a running back standpoint, but on that last play there, he gave Brunell an extra minute because of a great blocking job he did on the outside. So this guy's multi-talented. He can do a lot of different things. You look at the numbers there: 1,000 yards, 150 grand, 1,200, 200,000, 500 grand for 1,300 yards. He has 1,237 so far this year. Look at the touchdowns, 14 touchdowns.
He's playing the OJs. Money, 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 money. Yeah,
appreciate that.
Indeed. 3rd down and 6. Out of the shotgun. Pass is incomplete. Thrown really a bit low for McCardell, and we've got a flag down. And it appears to be holding against Jacksonville. Well, a legal hand to the face is the indication that we're getting from Jeff Triplett.
Illegal use of hands. Hands to the face. 63 offense. Penalty is declined. 4th down.
Goes against Brad Meester. This is not the day you want a hand to the face.
No, and it's not necessary. I mean, because you're dealing with a situation where guys don't really have the mobility that they would have under normal conditions, where you have the flexibility to make a guy miss an open space. Chances are those big old defensive linemen are going to stay within a 1 or 2 foot range. That's a pretty good job by Brad Meester. He can stay within those parameters. Doesn't have to go to the face.
Parker's boot is a low one, and it will go down inside the 20-yard line. For an NFL update, let's go to Jim Nantz in New York.
All right, to Cleveland. Let's go back to Timmy B and Spencer.
Conditions certainly a factor in the playoff picture, as you see. Very important with Indianapolis and Pittsburgh trying to work their way into a much better situation. Scoreless here. And Corey Dillon seems very comfortable on this very untidy carpet. Donovan Darius brings him down. I think you're right. I mean, Taylor's having a good start. He's having a great start considering the circumstances.
Because, you know, as you watch him run, one of the things he's doing is keeping his feet within his shoulder. He's not really stretching and striding. We saw Fred Taylor slip a little bit, primarily because he was trying to reach with his right leg, crossing his body. You can't make a cut on your inside leg.
A little reverse coming to Warwick. Look at that outstanding block by Battaglia, and Warwick makes something out of nothing. Got a little help from Marco Battaglia there, and he gets ahead for 3 yards as Cincinnati comes back with a little chicanery here, even with these lousy conditions.
I'm telling you, this kid is dangerous, particularly when something breaks open like this. Not a design play, but he absolutely has nothing right there in the grasp of the defender, but he just shakes and makes some moves and get plus yardage on that.
2nd down and 7. The rushing yards much better for Cincinnati at this stage than for Jacksonville as Brandon Bennett gets ahead for a couple of yards. And that should be the end of the first quarter here in Cincinnati. We are scoreless. We'll return to Paul Brown Stadium right after this message. We open the second quarter here in Cincinnati. Bengals have the ball and have had the better of the yardage situation so far, but they did turn it over in their last attempt. Here's Brandon Bennett from the 33, 34 up to about the 35-yard line, and that's about it. And it's another punt formation coming for the Bengals. Brant Boyer made the stop. Boyer had an outstanding interception last week, taking the ball away from Darrell Boston. Just took it right off of his shoulder pads, which allowed the Jaguars a chance for their first score. Reggie Barlow drops back deep, standing at his own 25-yard line for Jacksonville.
He had an outstanding game last week. He had 2 sacks also in that contest.
Pretty good punt, but low and returnable for Barlow. Great tackle by Damon Griffin. Magnificent work on the special teams by the reserve wide receiver. Our score. Well, the tarp may not have been put out, but you know what? The warm benches were brought in.
Hey, you got to have those Bunsen burners back there, man, blowing. You got to have that because you can't even feel yourself out there, Timmy.
Yeah.
I mean, I tell you what, on that one fumble that Dillon had, I guarantee you he didn't feel that guy.
Yeah. On first down, Taylor finds an opening. Fred Taylor up to midfield.
Fred Taylor.
15-yard pickup. Chris Carter hauled him down. Number 42, the strong safety.
I think the fine job that they're understanding here is that they've got to get vertical and just run straight up the field. Quit trying to run those perimeter plays. I mean, Corey Dillon got lucky on his first carry where he cut it back and got big yardage. North and south is how you play in these conditions, Tim.
37 yards on 7 carries for Fred Taylor. Here he goes again. There's that stop and start, the darting ability that he has. Even on a gain of 3 or 4 yards, Armijus Spearman made the stop. Wednesday on CBS, Academy Award winner Kevin Costner hosts a special presentation of the CBS Wednesday movie, The Bodyguard. Hear behind-the-scenes stories that have never been told until now. The Bodyguard, Wednesday on CBS. Love those behind-the-scenes stories. We could tell a few about this broadcast today, especially during the NFL today. 2nd and 8. Nice play fake by Brunell, but the pass incomplete. Good coverage against Kyle Brady that time by Cincinnati. They had that play snuffed out from the start. Now, I was down there for the update, the whip around at the top of the NFL today. I couldn't feel much of anything either.
And you look like you couldn't feel much of anything. You were pretty chilly down there. I felt for you, brother. I was up here with this heater going.
They said icicles were beginning to form on my mouth, and I said, you know what? A lot of people would be happy if it was just closed shut.
You were one cool customer.
Out of the shotgun on 3rd and 8. Brady is left open, but again, not enough for the first down. Artrell Hawkins had his sights set and kept him shy of the first down, only a gain of 6. And the Jaguars again will be forced into a punt formation. John Copeland is down, and his entire career has been just dotted with injuries. First-round pick in '93 out of Alabama, was on that outstanding team that won the national title in '92. He and Curry and Copeland, 2 of the great defensive linemen coming off a collegiate team simultaneously, and things have not gone well for him, but he's one of the few first-round picks in the decade of the '90s, and Cincinnati's had plenty of them, that's still on this team.
Yeah, and he's one of the rare ones that hadn't gone somewhere else and had tremendous success. If you look down this roster, you will see a plethora of first-round draft picks that have left here and gone on to have a modicum, if not extensive success at other programs. And the bottom line is Copeland has been a disappointment over the years since he's been here.
Yep. Outstanding leader, but again, you take into consideration the Achilles tendon problems this past year and other injuries prior to that. This is what you're talking about. Kijana Carter, we all know what happened with him. Of that group, you could still probably make a question mark with Warwick.
Yeah, but look at this guy right here.
Yep.
He's the one right here, the 10th. Highest pick there, but he's one that's been most productive.
Yeah, Willie Anderson, of that group in the 90s, the most productive. In fact, you can make a good case the last 2 years that he's been a Pro Bowl ilk.
Absolutely.
Marker to punt it away. Fair catch called for by Warwick. At the 15-yard line, a 27-yard boot. Bengals and Jaguars still looking to scratch the surface.
By Honda, a winning lineup of cars, sport utility vehicles, and minivans. Interstate batteries, power fast, built to last. And by American Express. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, American Express helps you do more.
Tim Brando, Spencer Tillman here in Cincinnati, where the slight sight of sun has emerged here for the hardcore fans at Paul Brown Stadium. We're scoreless, just shy of the 15-yard line. Scott Mitchell looking long, pass incomplete, intended for Danny Farmer. Back there with him, Fernando Bryan. It's doubleheader Sunday here on CBS Sports. The Indianapolis Colts and the Miami Dolphins coming up next. Very important game. Miami can clinch the AFC East title with a win and a New York Jets loss or tie. And when you think about it, they can clinch the AFC East title and tie with a New York Jets loss. So that's very important coming up a bit later today. Second down and 10. Pass is caught by Nick Williams. And the one-time blocking back for Edgerrin James, now of Indianapolis, while in college, is out 20 yards on that pickup.
Again, another one of these types of plays is cut out of the same pattern that we've been seeing a little crossing route here, coming out of the backfield on a little flat pattern. Nothing fancy here. Just turn, get 5 yards, turn your shoulders out against zone coverage, and get upfield. Great job of getting the most out of a rare situation here, because you're not going to be able to get plus yardage on these conditions in too many times.
He is a load, and he's an outstanding receiver coming out at the fullback position. And he gets it one more time in front of Dillon. Kevin Hardy comes up to make the stop on Corey Dillon. Well, his completion, Scott Mitchell's completion so far today, 25, 15, and 20. And when you think of Mitchell, we talked with him the other day, Spencer, and he was open about his opportunity that he thought was in front of him. He said, you know what? Yeah, I had a great year in Detroit, but I still can be a starter in this league. And he said, you know what? They've got a good back. They've got good young receivers and a better than average offensive line. And he likes the chances that he has of potentially being a starter here next year.
Timmy, I think you're going to see a number of quarterbacks. Trent Dilfer, we did that game here a few weeks back. You're going to see guys get second opportunities, second life, because of, number one, salary cap issues, but teams don't have the money to spend, so they'll stick around with the guy that's been maybe through a couple of programs, didn't have a great deal of success. You're going to see more and more of that. So if Mitchell can hang in and have some success, he may find a home here. Because Achilles Smith, I know that they're terribly disappointed with his development. Young guy just hadn't been able to get it done.
Here's Dillon, already 60 yards today. Ahead for 3 or 4 more this time. And Aaron Beasley makes the stop. That's his 10th carry of the afternoon.
One of the things about this, we talked about how Cincinnati having an advantage. When you've got a Corey Dillon back there running a little ISO play, cutting back, he's a fleet-foot guy. He's a big back, but defenders don't have the ability to change direction and recover after they're going one way. I mean, you got 260 going one direction, 275, 290 for some of the interior guys. Then you got a 217, 22-pound running back. He can change direction a lot quicker than one of those bigger guys.
And his change of direction forced Ronaldo Wynn, the defensive end, to grasp air. First down. Williams. Flags are down, but Williams isn't. Now he is inside the 45 to the 43-yard line. Reyna Stewart made the stop, and we've got a holding call coming up against the Bengals. That'll back them up.
Holding, offense, 74. 10-yard penalty. Repeat, first down.
You know, right where he is, in the middle of the field, if you take a look at the field of play, it can't get any worse, really, Spencer, than in the middle of the field. You can see how it's chewed up. That's the sandy area that was of great concern earlier in the week.
See, that's one of the reasons why you're going to get holding right here, because they know they don't have the footing. You know, Rich Brown is going to get a hand on the guy, but he's got his hands outside those pads and going to lock up on him. He's trying to get position, but it's tough there in the trenches.
Mitchell in trouble. Down he goes in the arms of Tony Brackens, who leads in sacks for Jacksonville. Yesterday in our meeting, you got up in his face a little bit, and I thought that was interesting. We had a number of the players in there with us. They actually he sought some emotional support from them in our meeting.
Well, you know, we were pointing out 3 major factors that contributed to this team's slow start, and his holdout was a question I just simply asked him. I said, if you're where you're supposed to be, this team has a better chance. Maybe they're not 2-6.
You know, I just was happy that you didn't look to me for any support. Nice run by Brandon Bennett. Out for a few yards on second down, gets about 4 on the play, maybe 5. But you're right. There's no question. Jacksonville, with particularly the talent they have, they got out to a slow start. And when you lose players of that significance, and clearly not having Fred Taylor those first 3 games, Tom Coughlin pointed that out to us. And you add to that the situation with Brackens. He didn't feel good about them when they broke camp, and understandably so. They got out to a 2-6 start. Mitchell, dangerous pass intended for Warwick, unable to get to it. There was some pressure coming from Smingy, number 99.
And that's a shame, because they really worked hard to get that deep over, and I think Mitchell, despite duress, had an opportunity on the deep over route to make a huge play.
So far, Pope has been able to get some pretty good boots away. Only one really poor one. The wind is still up, and sometimes just dropping the punt down, the ball will move on you a bit. Well, look at this. This is an outstanding kick. Backing Barlow up to his 16. He's ahead to the 20, and Damon Griffin again, the first to get down there, number 87 for Cincinnati. A 44-yard boot by Pope. Run for cover. St. Nick in stripes here in Cincinnati. For a complete breakdown of all playoff scenarios, including updates at the conclusion of each game, click on NFL at CBS.Sportsline.com. 1st and 10 Jacksonville. Why not? We're going to see a lot of Taylor and Dillon today. Heavy doses of that. Armija Spearman comes up to trip him down.
Well, Jags have basically decided to go north and south behind Meester, Baselli, and Jeff Smith, their center. They're taking the right approach here, because they don't need to do anything fancy. The conditions pretty much dictating the course of this contest. Neither side are really having great success passing the game, so it's going to be a long, slow, plodding affair here.
Taylor, you know, again, negotiates his way for a first down. He does a lot of that on his own with that quick darting style of his. This is a reverse of fortunes from last week. 4 possessions and 4 punts this week. And of course, the conditions have had a lot to say with that, though Taylor now has more than 50 yards on the ground. Corey Dillon, 65, his counterpart. And Tom Coughlin, give him credit. One of his better coaching jobs, considering they're not playoff bound this year. What he did for himself and his team is something well worth noting to get this team on a roll in the second half of the season. On first down, quick out to Jimmy Smith, and he's ahead for 5 yards. Mark Roman made the stop, and you know, it's amazing how coaches learn as they go along in their careers.
A little 5-yard, actually a 1-yard hitch, a pivot, just turn around and get possession of it. All they're trying to do here, they're not trying to get a big play, they're just trying to stretch the field defensively. From the standpoint of Cincinnati having to adjust and respect what they would like to do to open up that middle. That keeps them honest.
Second down and 5. McCardell in motion. Taylor spun down at least a yard shy of the first down by Chris Carter. And Fred Taylor is beginning to close in on one of those incentive clauses we talked about relative to cash flow. And as we mentioned, it does, the new agreement with the Players Association does cause some concern for future salary cap discussions for Jacksonville.
Well, he's about 10 yards away from that 500,000 number that we're looking at right there. Boy, that would be sweet. And again, Timmy, this stuff is accumulative. So this guy has a chance to make some serious money before this season is over with. Got a tough call, though, next week.
On third down, pass is caught for the first down. Jimmy Smith makes the grab. And the point needs to be made that it would be very unlikely, if you're able to hold on to a player of the caliber of Fred Taylor, that you would hold on to both Jimmy Smith, a Pro Bowler himself, and Keenan McCardell, who really makes this team so outstanding when you've got that threesome as a great combination for big play.
But I've heard through the grapevine and talking to some of the suits that McCardell might be expendable. They've got to trim a great deal of money, almost $60 million to get underneath that cap, where they needed $60 million. That's right, to get underneath that cap. To be at $102 million, they're over it big time. They've got to trim a bunch of money to get in a position where they can compete next year. And they've gone to several players already, Tim, and asked that they restructure their contract. I mean, you look at these numbers, $1.2 million. The 2001 NFL salary cap is $67.4 million has been established. They've got a lot of money to trim. They've already gone to several players, including their quarterback, to say, hey, look, we need some flexibility here, guys. It's going to be tough calling.
Yeah, you know, Brunell did say he believes strongly that much of the nucleus will be here, but in this business today, one never really knows for sure.
They spent $17 million on 3 players and signing bonuses over the last couple of years alone.
Taylor tackled quickly by Spearman and with a great deal of emphasis, and he pops right back up. Third down and 6 coming up.
Again, both sides really just a little ISO play. You know, we talked yesterday about the probability of seeing a lot of draws plays. That was play action, showing draw action on that. Simply just trying to keep the ball in the middle of the field. They're not going to try to run on the perimeters or try to fake anyone out on this turf. It's tough. You know, Timmy, picking up on the theme we talked about a minute ago, what Tom Coughlin and this organization did is got away from their model, drafting players, developing those players, and re-signing their own players, as opposed to going out and getting free agents and signing the big bonuses. They got away from their model, and now they're starting to pay for it.
Incomplete, intended for Smith. And the Bengals defense stops Jacksonville for a 5th consecutive series. And Barker will have to come in. You know, it's very difficult to discern what yard line we're on. And as I said, that sanded area, that almost quicksand that you see at midfield, is now beginning to spread from really the 120-yard line all the way to the other in the middle of the field. I think the best footing may be down the sidelines around the hash marks.
Well, you can see where most of the action is taking place. It's taking place between each team's respective 40-yard line. That's where most of the action is.
Short punt. Warwick lets it bound, and it's inside the 30 and out of bounds the 28, maybe the 29. Cincinnati will have it after a 24-yard boot.
Is sponsored by Gateway. In Gateway country, people rule. And by the world's fastest shaver, Panasonic Sonic Shaving. Get up to speed.
Fountain Square, a beautiful place, and yeah, you could say we're in the spirit. The Bengals and the Jaguars underway. Tim Brando, Spencer Tillman. Here's Corey Dillon ahead for a couple of yards, and that's about it. This is the coldest game played in Cincinnati since the 1982 Freezer Bowl, January 10th, on the banks of the Ohio River at Riverfront Stadium. And Ken Anderson leading the Bengals into their Super Bowl opportunity against San Francisco. You'll recall that year as they beat the Chargers, as close as Dan Fouts ever got to a Super Bowl. And there's Ken Anderson, longtime offensive coordinator for the Bengals. Proud of moments, and you see Warwick. He did have an opportunity to get up and did, but he was smacked down hard by Kevin Hardy as soon as he made his move. And we've got an injury on the field. You see Ken Anderson there looking on. That appears to be Mike Logan. Mike Logan, who's been the nickel back that's been playing primarily for Dom Capers' defense, the defensive coordinator, young man out of West Virginia. They're very high on this youngster. In run situations, he's really been more like a linebacker for this Jaguars team. Going back to Kenny Anderson, he certainly left the door open when we spoke to him that that Scott Mitchell still has a chance to compete next year.
It wasn't exactly a ringing endorsement for Achille, was it?
No, it was not. Pass is caught by Warwick. Now they're going to rule it down, and they say he was juggling it along the sidelines. Well, this will be close. Warwick may argue the point. And we may have a marker down as well. Could be going against Jacksonville.
Offside defense, number 26, lined up in the neutral zone. 5-yard penalty, result of the penalty, first down.
So it really doesn't matter. Raina Stewart, number 26, the guilty party. Coming up, again, a safety coming up in that zone blitz situation that Capers runs, and he got inside the neutral zone prior to the snap.
You know, a lot of times when they've called for that kind of defensive coverage, Tim, a guy like Raina Stewart will try to get as close as he can to the guy, because guess what? He's a mirror. He has to respond to what the receiver is doing. Oftentimes, if he gets beat on a nice swift move, he's in a bad situation from a defensive position. So they try to take advantage of every bit of space they possibly can. It cost them there.
Mitchell, incomplete. Looking for Craig Yeast deep. And for an NFL update, back to New York in Jim Nance.
Timmy B, as you know.
Loose ball. Dillon fumbles it. His second fumble of the day, the last one at the 35-yard line of Jacksonville, and this time it's Kevin Hardy that comes away with the recovery. And you can see on the face of Corey Dillon his displeasure.
You know, the greatest running backs become marginal when they turn the ball over. Corey Dillon makes a great job of making the guy miss, but unfortunately, he loses a handle. Playing Dillon back there. Nice little isolation play here. Finds nothing front side, comes backside. Nice job of making the guy miss, but watch the arm right there. Kevin Hardy sticks it in there. Not only does he pull the ball out, he's going to wind up getting the fumble. You talking about being aggressive and being active. That's a great play right there.
5 years out of Illinois. He said, hey, no excuses about this team, even though he's had different linebackers around him all year long. They should have played better early. And this pass is caught by McCardell. And this is the deepest penetration of the day for Jacksonville at the 20-yard line after a 15-yard gain.
Remember those little out patterns we were talking about that didn't look like much? What they do is open up plays like this down the field. All of a sudden, they lull you into sleep with those little 2-yard pivots. Then they come out with a medium or an intermediate route, like a 12-yard hitch. They're playing loose on the corners out there, and then you get plus yardage. That's fine football.
First down, Brunell with time. Brady, that crossing pattern to the big tight end has been there most of the day, and he's inside the 10 to about the 8. Mark Roman makes the stop. A 12-yard pickup for the former Jet, who's really had a productive season.
You know, one of the things about Brady is he comes on that little crossing pattern. This guy makes great yardage after the catch. Look at this. 1, 2, 3 guys bouncing off of him. Hey, I'm told in the huddle, they punch him just to keep him going. He makes so many yards after contact. He's great.
4 receptions for 41 yards today for Brady. And now he leads the blocking for Fred Taylor, who burrows to about the 5-yard line. You know, you look at the numbers on Kyle Brady as a tight end, and he's had obviously a number of catches. They've gone to him often. We do have a timeout taken. But they don't have their backup tight end, Damon Jones, who really was one of their better receiving where touchdowns were concerned on this football team.
Now
only a second touchdown catch of the year. They had gone to Jones many times as a receiver, but he tore his ACL second play of the season earlier this year. Yet another injury that they incurred. Here is Taylor, stopped near the line of scrimmage. They have gotten a yard, and that's about it. Artrell Hawkins, number 27, the corner, comes up to lay the pads to him. And Taylor now just 2 yards away from the $500,000 bonus that's a part of that contract. It's amazing to think the percentage of this offense that's built around Fred Taylor for the season, and he missed 3 games. I mean, he's about 30% of their offensive productivity, and he missed 3 games earlier in the year. 61 yards so far today.
Well, part of what makes him the back that he is because he's got 2 great skilled receivers out there, McCardell and Jimmy Smith. I mean, you've got 1 Pro Bowl guy out there, and the other guy is just only a handful of yards behind him in total yards this season. So when you have a tandem like that, I'm telling you, it forces a defense to make tough decisions. It forces one-on-one coverages, and that opens up the middle. You can't load up 8 and 9 guys between the tackles. You know, you look at the company that he's chasing right there. That's pretty sweet. Barry Sanders, Marcus Allen, Walter Payton. He has a chance to tie Tatum for a consecutive 100-yard game.
Well, he only needs 2 yards to get to 1,300 on the season. 3 yards for a touchdown. But it's a pass, and it's thrown for the touchdown. No, they're actually saying he's at the... I can't believe
that should be a touchdown.
That's not a touchdown. It appeared that he was across the end line. You can see Brunell is very upset, but no signal. Jimmy Smith caught it, but apparently was not in there for the score. And we may have a challenge. Well, we're inside the 2-minute mark anyway. It's likely that they're going to take a look and review this. His body was across the end zone.
We're reviewing the ruling on the field that it was a catch at the sideline out at short of the goal line.
Now remember, the body was across, and that's important, but the ball also has to be across, not just the body.
Yeah, that's the difference. He does a great job on the out route here, getting his hands out there and catching it. And I'll tell you what, you know, that looks like he kicks the pylon, gets his foot down right in front of it. That's a touchdown. That's about as conclusive as you get on the review there.
Well, I mean, obviously, at first glance, I called it. Yeah, that's...
He actually got 3 steps in.
Now, remember, you know, where the ball is located is important. But, you know, Tom Coughlin knows it's a score.
And he's got the bad angle.
But by rule, remember, you know, where the body is only half of the equation. The ball also has to be there. And it may be where the ball was cradled that is, in fact, the discerning factor for the officials.
I'll tell you what, if they do get this thing turned over, they will have earned it because they're in the red zone, the toughest place to score down here in the field.
All right, watch where the ball is, Spencer. Is it outside the orange area where he cradles the football? And it's very difficult to tell, obviously, from that particular angle, but that's, you know, clearly the pylon, the feet were there. All he has to do is touch the orange, and he hits the pylon on the inside. The official seems to be looking at that. Normally, you would see a line judge say, well, obviously that's a score.
You know what, Timmy?
Didn't come.
I'm going to stand corrected because I look at that again. I'm not so sure it's conclusive. He may not have had that ball across that line.
That's the point. I think because he was holding the ball when he caught it so far away from his body, the ball also has to be across as much as the feet in the end zone.
Absolutely. And that reverse angle that we saw there, you can't really judge it. You don't have the depth perception to it.
And I believe that will be the irrefutable point, that angle is not conclusive. So my guess is that the call will remain as it stands.
That's a fair assumption.
Yep. Mike Hollis has made his way out just in case they need him for an extra point or for 3. He's going to have to go to work regardless of the call.
Well, you know, one of the keys here is you've got to go and convince the guy that you got in. Look at Jimmy Smith pleading his case right here. I got in, he's saying.
He's showing the cleat marks.
What are you looking at?
Yeah, and Mark Brunell felt it was a touchdown. And again, I certainly didn't need the hands to go up to know that both feet were in the end zone. And I called it as such with the naked eye.
Well, with the way this game has gone, whoever does score first has a really good chance of putting himself in a position of winning this contest.
I'm going to say it remains, the call remains as it stands.
After reviewing the play, the receiver gains possession with both feet down, inbounds, and the ball penetrating the goal line. It is a touchdown.
Wow. Well, we called it as such
initially.
Yeah. But I would debate whether the replays that he had a chance to look at were conclusive.
I'm not sure. You know, from the angles that we saw, it was not conclusive.
Yeah.
He obviously had a different angle that we did not see.
Well, our better eyesight from the angle.
I don't see how down there. I mean, you do have the orange lines down there, but I don't think you can see much else.
Hollis for the extra point. Well, you know, from my perspective, I feel better about my initial call. I just wish I hadn't had so many opportunities to make the error in my own judgment. And Tom Coughlin is happy, and that's what's really important.
if you can't get enough pro football.
There you see the happy recipient of the touchdown pass, Jimmy Smith, to make it a 7-0 game. Tim Brando, Spencer Tillman. The waning moments of the first half. Corey Dillon's second fumble, this time inside Cincinnati's 25-yard line, leads to a touchdown for Jacksonville. Dillon, really his best run to give Cincinnati its best opportunity to strike. He fumbled on a run of better than 20 yards inside the Jacksonville 35.
Well, the fortuitous call, and only stands to reason that you would have one of their outstanding receivers involved in that. That tandem is pretty impressive. Jimmy Smith, Keenan McCardell.
Jermaine Mack must take it from his 12-yard line.
Nice job, Danny.
And he's up ahead shy of the 25-yard line. Danny Clark was there to make the stop. Well, you talked about what makes Fred Taylor so good in many respects is the presence of Jimmy Smith and Keenan McCardell.
I mean, you look at, there's not much yard between these two guys. One makes the Pro Bowl because he's been there. Once you get the first time, it gets easier each year to make it. Look at the receptions, not very much between them. Either one of these guys are Pro Bowl worthy. I think if they're on separate teams, both of them are members. Maybe there's a better tandem up in Minnesota and Moss and Carter, but folks, this is about as
Holidays got you.
Ronaldo Wynn, 4 years out of Notre Dame, runs him down from behind. Well, don't forget, Jim will be busy with the NASDAQ halftime.com report. Mike and Jerry will join him for scores and highlights, the latest playoff news, plus a report on the Indianapolis-Miami game, doubleheader day here on CBS Sports. All of that coming up next on the NASDAQ.com halftime report. And we are at halftime as the Jaguars lead Cincinnati 7-0. Back after this message and a word from your local station.
Time report, Jim Nantz along with Mike Dickett, Jerry Glanville. Love that smile. You'll be smiling later today, too, on our doubleheader day. Indianapolis, Miami to most of the nation. Let's get a report on that game now from the gentlemen who will call it, Greg Gumbel and Phil Simms. You're watching, and now through 6 quarters on the season, Mike, Jacksonville has not allowed a point by the Bengals. They beat them 13-0 early in the year.
But I tell you, the field is just terrible. The conditions are terrible. The footing is terrible, and it's showing. Jimmy Smith finally got in for a touchdown, up 7-0.
All right, elsewhere in the NFL today, let's begin in Kansas Eastern Time. That's next Saturday on CBS. Second half's coming up from Cincinnati in just a moment.